In this example, you're going to learn how to create a form and also attach that form to a process where you start off with the form, you enter the data, and you submit that form, and the process will get started automatically. And within the process, we'll get some data from the form and try to make some decisions with that data. So first, let's go to form definitions, and let's go ahead and create a new form definition. And we're going to use a leave request as example, as we have used that form similarly in previous examples. So let's go ahead and create a leave request. And let's open that in our designer. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop two labels. Let's call this name. And let's give this label number of days. And we're going to put two text boxes. So let's go to on the toolbox and pick text. We're going to call this txt name. And I'm going to put another text box. And we call it txt num days. And we can make this small. And we're going to save that. And we need the submit button. So we'll take the submit form from the toolbox. And also let's rename this submit button to be submit leave request. We're going to go ahead and save that. And we're going to save the form. And we can, if you like, we can also do a preview and see what the form looks like. Here's what the form looks like. You can enter a name and number of days for leave and then submit that request. So now let's say we want to design a process where the process is going to take the number of days and then make a decision whether number of days is over 100 or less than 100 days. So let's go ahead and close the form. And now we're going to go to workflow definitions. And we're going to create a new process. Let's call it leave request process. Once this open up in our workflow designer, one of the first things we're going to define is a variable called form ID. What the reason for defining that is, we're going to go here to define variables. The reason for defining that is mainly, you want to know when the form gets submitted, this process is going to automatically start, and you want a reference passed down to this particular process for the form or the form instance. So we're going to say form ID and add that as a string. And when the process runs, this form ID variable will have a reference for the form instance. So if you look in the toolbox, we have a whole bunch of form steps. And one of the things we want to do is we want to get the number of days from the form. So we are going to use the get form field value step. We're going to connect those two together. And when we get that, we want to also store that into a variable. So we're going to go back to define variables, and let's call it num days. And we're going to define that as a number and add that variable. So let's go ahead and go to this step, get form field values, and we can call this get number of days. Okay. And you can see that there's a required field here called variable that holds the form instance ID. We're going to give variable dot form ID, and we're going to also select the form definition here. So we're going to pick leave request form and save that. We're going to now go ahead and do the mapping. So if you go to the mappings here, you will see all the fields that are available within the form. So we want to get txt num days, and then we want to assign that to variable dot num days. So at this point, the workflow will run this step and get the value from this field and store it in this variable. And we're going to go ahead and save that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a decision. So I'm just going to go to my search box here and type in decision. And we're going to use evaluate expression. So here we'll connect the two. And the expression I'm going to give is, I'm just going to give variable dot num days greater than 100. And just so that we can see which path it took, I'm just going to use one of my famous 1 == 1 steps. So you can see I have this expression step with a 1 == 1. And I'm going to grab two of these and I'm going to put them right here and connect to the main step. And I'm going to say, go down this path if the expression is true. Go down this path if the expression is false. And we're going to go ahead and save that. And also save the workflow definition. So everything looks good here from validation perspective. No errors in this workflow definition. Now what we can do is we can go execute the form and the process. The way you do that is, I'm going to go ahead and close this workflow definition. You're going to go to form definitions. You're going to pick the form and you're going to go under utils. Actually, you're going to go under view and say execute with params. It's going to bring up this UI. First thing you had to do is you had to, you can see the form definitions already selected. You can select the workflow definition from here. So in this case, it's our leave request process. And here we're going to select the variable that holds the form ID. So it's going to be form ID. And if you want to use this particular form and the process in any other website, you can do that by just copying this URL. Copy to clipboard and the URL will be copied. And that can be used anywhere you want. So if I open up another tab, you will see that it will post the URL. And the first thing that happens is the form comes up. What you can also do is you can just click on this execute button. And the execute button will also navigate to the URL. So here I'm going to put Jake Toland, and I'm going to put a number of days. It's going to be, let's say, 56. And I'm going to submit this request. Okay. Once the request is submitted, I'm just going to go back to my FlowWright. And we're going to see a couple of things. If we go to form instances, you're going to see a new form instance being created. So you can see leave request form dash GOID. And this form, if you do view, you will see this will be what we just entered as data. And also, if we go to workflow instances, you will see a workflow instance being created. And in this case, you can see the one with the GUID. And if we render this, you could see that the workflow started and then over here the workflow grabbed the value, number of days from the form, and then it used it in this particular decision where it evaluated the expression if number of days is less than 100, or greater than 100. And since that was false, it went down the false path into this step. And we can also dig deeper into this step and view what happened. So if you go into the step, you will see that the step return value is false. And if you look at variables, you can also see the variable num days is equal to 56. And if you look at properties, you'll see that this is the expression we evaluated if number of days is greater than 100. And if you click on this little icon, you can also see the actual expression that got evaluated. So this is how you use a form and a process together, where you start with the form. Once the form is submitted, the process automatically starts.